fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. Today I'm joined by Mauro Pinaffo. He is the Senior Global Product Manager for Tennis and Padel balls. And you've heard in recent months so much discussion about balls, like what's the quality like. Players complain that they change every other tournament. So we're going to get into that today from a manufacturer point of view. And hopefully you can learn something from it. But first of all, how are you today, Mauro?
Hi, thank you, Jonas. I'm fine, thanks. And thanks a lot for having me here. It's a real pleasure to have the opportunity to talk about this topic, which is very important, and it has got a lot of attention in the last months, years, I would say.
So what's your background? You've been with Head for quite a while, I know. I met you there.
Yeah, exactly. I worked for Head 2 times actually, and before for Prince. So I'm an engineer. I took care of developing rackets in the past, and here at Head now I'm taking care of balls mainly, from the ideation of the product until the commercialization and the production.
How much more complicated is it to do balls versus rackets, or is it just like different? What's the difference for you?
I would say it's different. And one thing I always say when I talk about balls is that they look all the same, all round, all yellow. They bounce the same, but they are actually a very complicated product to produce it and to make it with the right specifications for the different type of players. So it's a really interesting product to develop.
So when you work with your balls, like I know Head Tour, I know Head Tour XT, there's also Head Pro. Like, so what is your lineup and what kind of different consumers do you target with your different types of balls that you offer on tennis sides, especially?
Yeah, exactly. We try to target all type of players. So our premium range with Tour and Tour XT, these balls are developed for higher level players that look for performances. Mainly, Tour XT is more a control type of ball, more feel, more spin, while Tour is a faster ball, more fast in the air. Then when we go a little down, we have Pro, Championship, and Team. Pro is a little lower, I would say, as a performances, it's a little lower than Tour for players that look more durability, especially. Championship and Team as well, we go higher with durability and a little less performance. So they are slower balls, more on the control side, more easier to play. So really for all type of players.
And how important is the kind of quality of materials? And has that changed over the recent years? That's been a lot of debate.
This is the question I always read in different articles online, and that people always ask to us. Materials haven't changed. The process is always the same, I would say, since many years, and all manufacturers more or less the same process, and they use more or less similar materials. What changes is the mixture of the compound, the different ingredients that are used in terms of percentages, and maybe some different additives like we have for Tour and Tour XT, for example. The felt is really important because it affects the durability of the ball, of course, and its performances in the air, the spin, the feel, the bounce even. And it's interesting to know that there are two main big suppliers of felt in the world, and more or less all brands, they buy the felt from these suppliers. And the COVID years, I would say they had some effect on materials. So materials didn't change. What changed is the consistency of the quality of these materials that we receive. Because during, I would say 2020 until 22, these factories, they had, of course, some problems in base materials. They had problems with workers. They closed the factories. They started the machines. They stopped. Maybe some suppliers, they even changed the machines. They renewed their process. And we saw a less consistency of the materials when we received them in the factory. Of course, and as other brands, we make a lot of quality controls of the materials when we receive them. And because the process is so complex, the process must be adapted to to the quality of the materials when we receive them. And this is what maybe has created some inconsistencies that the market have seen. Let me take as an example what happened at India Wells, where many players complained about the felt that was fluffing up a lot. That's a clear example. That kind of felt is called woven felt. So the structure of the fibers is the same of a jersey. It's woven, and it is actually made to fluff up, to open when you play. It's not supposed to open so much to become like an apple, like some players said. The surface in Indian Wells where the players play is very rough. And it's made like this because otherwise the game would be too fast with the conditions that are in the desert. So very dry, very hot. But this type of surface is very hard on the felt, especially with this type of structure. You just need really few shots to make this felt to open. It's, I would say, normal in these conditions. Every type of ball with this type of felt would have behaved in the same way. So if you add a little bit of inconsistency at the beginning, then you have this type of results that are a little worse than expected.
What is kind of a solution to kind of get back on track? Like I think one of the issues that maybe you can talk about as well is that players are, disturbed that they're new balls all the time, right? But that's the sponsorship thing. So, you have tournament sponsors, different parts of the season. Ideally, you would maybe have a quarter with one ball and then a quarter with another ball. So it's only like 4 changes per year or something. But I guess that's complicated. But maybe you can talk about that a bit as well. But how can you solve these kind of consistency issues from now?
Well, on one side, there's the felt that is fluffing up, and this I can say has been addressed and solved in terms of process of producing the felt and then producing the ball according to the felt that we receive. So this type of problem has been detected, and I would say it has been solved with a post process, I would say, when the last step of the production of the ball is to press the felt with some type of temperature and steam, and with this last process we can control a little better how much the felt opens. Of course, if the surface is super rough, then you cannot do anything. And players actually complained on different tournaments with also different balls. So this type of problem affected more or less all the brands in the last years. This is one problem, and I would say it has been addressed and solved. On the other side, I understand and we know that changing balls every week for players is a problem. This is due to the structure and the sponsorship that is now present in the ITP tournaments. I don't see an easy solution here because let's take again an example, Indian Wells and Miami. Supposed to have the same ball. The balls plays anyway differently if the environmental conditions change. So if you have 40 degrees, it is faster, and maybe you play in the night when you have 20 degrees, it's different. You go to Miami, it's super humid, and this felt has some natural fibers in it, so it opens naturally a lot. So even if you have the same ball, it will play differently in different tournaments. Maybe the difference will not be as big, but it will always be different. So we, as head, we are monitoring the situation. We are, of course, thinking of a possible solution, but we see it tricky. It's really tricky. Maybe, as you said, players could use the same ball for the US tournaments and then the same ball for the Australian Open type of tournaments and so on. But anyway, they cannot expect that the ball always play the same. This is giving.
That's a good point. I think people don't think about that.
We can see the thing also from another point of view. In the last years, the game has evolved. Players are stronger, faster. They hit very fast the ball. They put a lot of energy on the ball. The courts also have changed. Maybe in the West, the surface is super rough, but the ball has always been the same. So of course, players are now different needs. They demand different benefits. The balls didn't follow. This is true, but it's also difficult to change it because there are specific rules or definitions that must be followed from ITF. So we could, for example, produce a ball that is super durable in terms of pressure, but maybe it doesn't follow the rules from ITF. So there's a trade-off that we have to consider here, and it's difficult. It's not so easy.
No, everything is complicated, especially tennis. Tennis is a complicated sport because, as you said, you travel to different tournaments, different conditions, weather changes. It's raining, it's not raining, it's sunny. When you manufacture balls, like let's say for clay, if we take Roland Garros now, French Open, the balls, we didn't have any complaints about balls, but it seems like on clay courts, there are not as many complaints about the balls that it is like on maybe hard courts and I guess Wimbledon, they use the same ball throughout the grass court season, as far as I know.
Yeah, correct.
But it's a
but
short.
Don't get me wrong. It's not an excuse. It's only to point out that it's a complicated topic. Roland Garros, I think last year I read some complaints. This year not, but I saw some close-ups of the recent matches, and the ball was anyway fluffing up a bit. So it's in the nature of the ball to have that effect. But as I told you, the quality and the consistency of the felt in general is improved. So I hear less complaints also because of this.
When it comes to creating a ball for different surfaces, is that something you think about? Like, okay, this is going to be a ball for clay courts. This is going to be a ball more suitable to fast surfaces. Is that something you work with when you're developing balls?
Yeah, it's interesting to know that for tournaments, usually balls have are selected with a higher quality, especially in terms of hardness. We have the capability to select the hardness of the ball, so to have a specific range within the ITRF rules, but with a smaller deviance. So for example, if the surface is super fast, we can select maybe a lower range of hardness, so we can adjust the speed of the ball for this. And also for the felt, this is a little more difficult, as I explained before, because it's a structure that is alive, I would say. It can be controlled less, but yes, we have some methods to adapt it to the different surfaces.
When it comes to the environment, and that's like one of the toughest parts for tennis, is that all the strings, they go and disturb the environment, they stay around forever. Balls, fluff especially, seems to be a big problem. Is there anything we can do on a long term to have a kind of more sustainable sport in terms of balls?
Making the life of the balls longer is for sure a good way, an easy and good way. Longer in terms of for sure keeping pressure and felt durability. Pressureless balls are supposed to be more durable, but I would not recommend them to high-level players or players that play every day, because the lack of pressure has been substituted by a thicker core. So the core is more stiff, the ball feels heavier if you play at high speed. It has a different sound, so the perception is totally different. So a good player must not expect the same type of performances from a pressureless ball compared to a pressurized ball. The pressureless ball is good for players that maybe play once a week, 2 times a week, and they are looking for durability mainly, and maybe a little less for performance. This is one topic. The other topic is in terms of cans. We have a new design for our cans that make them more easy to recycle. It means that the design with the shorter sleeve allow the machines in the recycling flow to recognize the materials of the can and to be able to reuse them for other purposes. This is one important development that we did with our cans. In general, recycling balls is also a tricky topic. There are companies that are able to separate, to grind the materials and separate them, but it's difficult to create new balls from these materials. And of course, they can be reused for other purposes like sport surfaces or other things. What could be helpful, and we are observing that the use of pressurizers is becoming more and more popular. Pressurizer is a tool that is able to recover the pressure inside the ball, so it is able to make its life longer, but only in terms of pressure. It doesn't do anything to the felt. So again, players that play every day, it doesn't make sense that they use pressurizers because maybe the felt will worn out very soon. The pressurizer is good for, again, players that play paddle, maybe, because paddle is a sport that is easy on the felt, or players that play tennis, again, once, twice a week, that they can put the balls in the pressurizer and allow 2-3 days to recover the pressure. It's not something magical that in half an hour makes the ball new. It takes a little time, but it's a tool that works.
When it comes to paddle, like they're lower pressure balls, like, and I guess they're more durable overall because you don't paddle. That's like you say, like a paddle surface is not as coarse for the balls and as tough for them. So when you develop paddle balls, what are the ingredients you're thinking about there to have a good paddle ball?
Paddle balls in general are a little softer and smaller than tennis balls because of the nature of the game. The game is lower, so they need to play with a little slower balls. Also because we have the ball that bounces on the glass, and that to give some control to the player. It's a game that is not as hard on the felt as we said. So the felt is different, is more close, more compact, to allow a little bit more speed in the air and more durability, of course. So here in paddle, the tricky part is the pressure of the ball. If you play a lot, many games, maybe the ball loses pressure before the felt is gone. And there, the pressurizer can help to recover the pressure almost to the same level of the original fresh balls. And so you can play a little longer. These are numbers proven by the ITF. Actually, the ITF is exploring this type of tools because they look for tools that can make the life of the balls longer, because this is the first good direction for sustainability. And it is proven that these tools can really recover the pressure of the balls.
When it comes to tennis being, I mean, if we compare it to paddle, you can see beginners play all the time. There are a lot of beginners can enjoy a game of paddle with like 4 players, and it seems like it's such a lower entry to actually get into and play some points and have fun. While tennis is difficult, you need to learn the technique, you need to really improve to have a good rally, and it takes some time. You might need to go, to a coach for a half a year or whatever. But there's been discussions whether veterans or beginners should use more like green dot balls, the balls that are designed for kids. What are your thoughts about like green dot, red dot? I guess there's orange dot as well.
Right.
These balls are all, I guess, much softer. And what are the difference in manufacturing for these types of balls? And is that an idea you think personally that could work, that beginners should start maybe green dot balls even if they're older?
Well, the age is not must not be a problem for this topic, because if you have to learn playing tennis, for example, and as you said, you have to learn the technique, then you have to slow down the game. You can only learn the technique well if you slow down the motion, and the green dot balls are very good in this. They are, if I remember correctly, 80% of the speed of the normal balls. So it's 20% slower. They are pressureless balls, or with a little bit of pressure inside. They are softer, of course. The core is a little thinner to make them softer, and the felt is called needle felt, so it stays close and is more durable. So they are for sure a good solution for beginners, not only for kids. The orange balls are 50% slower, again, if my mind is correct, and they are softer, even softer, same procedure, only a different type of recipe for the core, so the rubber is softer, and these are good for kids that play with smaller rackets here. Yes. And then the red ones, they are really the softest, but they are also bigger. These are for smaller kids that are learning, but also They are good for the orange, and the red ones are good when you are learning paddle, because again, they slow down the game. Maybe for kids, they need this type of balls. So absolutely, we just developed these new stage balls, 1, 2, 3, the red, the orange, and the green. There's a new range coming out at the end of the year with improved benefits, so more durability, a little more speed, but still within the needs of this type of beginners players.
How much work and headache, I guess, would it be to develop a new ball? Like the Head Tour XT is relatively new in your line, right? The Head Tour has been around, but the Head Tour XT. So when you start from zero, or how did you get to that point where you want to okay, we have to develop a new ball, we want to push the market this way, we need a ball that does this. How does that process work?
Well, it's as you said, it's a headache because of the complexity of the recipe. Where we can work and change a lot the characteristic of the ball is in the core, so in the rubber part. And well, I can tell you the recipe, the total number of ingredients is around 25, more or less. So this is something I also was surprised when I found out the first time. It's not only rubber. There are a lot of different additives that can change the stiffness or the reactiveness of the rubber, the durability, the ability of keeping pressure. So changing a little bit the percentages of this material change a lot the performance, as well as changing the temperatures of the different steps of the curing and the production process. So let's say we want a ball that is more durable. We can work on the thickness of the core, making the wall more thick, or increasing, for example, the percentage of natural rubber, which is higher quality, but is also less porous, so is able to keep the pressure more inside. Here, our engineers at the factory, they have a lot work to do, and we produce a lot of prototypes when we test new balls, because we have to prove that the benefits and the performances are exactly what we are looking for, and this can only be done with players on the course. So we use different level players internally here at Head, but also externally in all our academies. So yeah, really from kids to tour players, we test our balls with them.
Are you working on something new in terms of balls, except the lines of the green and orange and red that you talked about?
Well, we are working on paddle. We just developed a new line of premium balls for paddle. We improved them for the modern players and the modern game, because paddle, the game is now faster. Players are looking for faster balls, so we increased the speed, and we increased a lot of the durability of the balls. And here it required 1 year of development. Now we are ready, and again, this ball should be available by the end of the year. In tennis, at the moment, there are no new developments, but we are keeping an eye, as I told you before, on this fluffiness problem. We are studying different felts, different solutions to improve really even more the durability of the felt.
Something I'm quite curious about is like the business of tennis balls. Like, what's kind of your margins? You don't need to say the numbers, but it's like, it's not really a money driver for the company. That's as far as I understand it. And how has the price changed for the consumer? You know, because if you have to replace balls, especially if you play on a somewhat high level, you play almost every day, it becomes a cost to, you have to buy like a crate of balls all the time, right? So how is the cost structure changing, and is it easy to make any money for you guys when it comes to the balls?
Well, the producing ball must be a very efficient process. As Head, we produce more than 120 million balls in a year.
Wow.
Which is a huge number, yeah. And so the process must be really efficient. And despite of this, we always try to keep a fair price, I would say. We didn't increase the price of paddle balls, for example, in the last 2 years, even if after COVID, as you can imagine, the lack of base materials and the difficulty in the process was challenging. Okay, so of course we know that some players may change balls every day, and so we try to help the market in this way. It's an important part because balls, as I told you, they are. It takes a lot to produce them, because when you start producing a ball, then at the end of you get the ball after 30 days. So you start with the rubber, and after 30 days you get the ball. So it takes a lot. And anyway, the process is really efficient, and we can keep the prices fair, I would say.
Something that strikes you as that's tough to make like big bucks for a company of your standards, like because it's the manufacturing is expensive and there's so many materials, like you said, like 25 different ingredients in a tennis ball, and you don't have many places to source them from either, like with the two felt companies for producing it.
Yeah, exactly. But also the producers of natural rubber or synthetic rubber, there are 2-3 big producers in the world, so they also drive the cost of the base materials. In the last years, every industry suffered of the increase of cost of the materials, and also in China, our factory is based in China, and the cost of labor in China also increased. It's not easy to keep the prices always there, but we are trying to do it, making the process more efficient, so to reduce costs in other sectors.
Do you do a lot of look at the competitors? I mean, there's quite a few different balls, depending a little bit on the different regions you're in. And you have, I mean, Penn is your American name, right? Like you're selling the same balls, but it's under Penn in the US. But when it comes to looking at the competition, is that something you do all the time, like trying to study what other people are doing with their selection and their balls, so you can improve or at least be aware of the market?
No, of course, as you can imagine, we always have eyes on what the competitors do. I can show you here, I have boxes of balls to test, to cut, to analyze, because we want to be at the same level and even more as the competition. So if someone is introducing something new, we studied it from the materials point of view to the performances in the court. Then we try to understand where they have improved or which direction they are taking. Are they providing stiffer balls, faster balls, more durable? On the other side, we have our own direction. We think that with Tour and Tour XT, we are providing, for example, two very good balls that can satisfy the needs of many players. One is, as I told you, one is more control-oriented, the other is faster. As well in Padel, we have two balls. The Pro S Plus is faster, the Pro Plus is more control-oriented. And more or less, we see our competitors are following this structure at the moment.
Something I'm curious about, maybe you can share, or maybe I'm not sure you're involved in this, but it's like if you have the negotiations to become a ball for a tournament. There's so many tournaments, and the tournaments change sometimes in the calendar. Like they lose their license, another tournament comes in, the calendar changes a little bit. Many tournaments are the same. But how does it work to become like a tournament ball? And I assume it's a pretty high cost for the manufacturer, but it's also based maybe on requirements from the tournament itself.
Yeah, so every tournament has their own requirements for the ball. So usually we enter a pitch where we provide test balls, and they test them in their courts, and then when they select 2-3 final candidates, then the candidate make an offer, and then the tournament selects the best offer considering the ball that they tested. So there's on one side, it's a matter of costing, so sponsorship. Of course, for the brand, there's a matter of visibility to be, especially on the big tournaments, and we decided to continue with India West with Penn because it's considered the 5th slam, so it's a big tournament, a lot of visibility. On the other side, we are moving our focus also on sponsoring federations, big academies, grassroots clubs, because we think this is even more important to have the normal players who is playing every day or every week to be able to play with head balls. In this way, we think we can even reach a higher group of players and even be more visible. In fact, in Europe, we are sponsors of many federations in Germany, Italy, Spain, France, and we participate with and we also offer balls to many academies. So we shift a little bit our focus from big tournaments to this type of sponsoring.
It seems very logical because, like, if I was you or a ball manufacturer, like, especially looking at the recent months of complaints, like, it's not like you're getting a lot of plus, because players will complain. It might be right, it might be wrong, right? Because they usually, if you lose, you complain more. Technically, that's kind of how you feel, or if you're feeling like you have a bit of a sore arm or something. So there seems to be little upside to being a tournament ball, but then this will be a bigger upside to be the ball in an academy or in a club where people always play, right? That's my feeling around.
You're right. Being the sponsor of a big tournament like Indian Wells, again, on one side, it gives you great visibility. On the other side, if the players complain, then it can be dangerous. And then you have to explain what happened. Like it happened actually during Indian Wells, some players also pointed out that the surface was very rough. So it was normal that the ball was fluffing up so much. Or even Tommy Haas, the director of the tournament, pointed out that the performance of the pen balls are within the standards. Instead, focusing a lot of on federations and academies, as I told you, there we can have also a lot of visibility, and people really can test the ball and see from themselves what are the performances.
Do you feel like players are complaining more these days than if you maybe go back 15 years or 10 years in the tennis tour? I mean, the professional players.
Can I read you one sentence that I put in one of my presentations? This is from Ivan Isevic. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. He says, nowadays everyone complains about everything. The sun, the rain, the court, the balls. The conditions are the same for everyone. The balls are different in every tournament, and that's it. It summarizes a little bit what you just said, and also what I said in the beginning. The game and the players have changed. They are stronger, and maybe they are more sensitive to small changes. I'm sure I can understand, because they are great athletes. They can perceive any different variations in temperature, humidity. That's why they also change a lot of the tensions of the strings according to the weather, to the humidity, to the temperature. They feel the differences. So I'm sure that if the ball changes, they complain. Then there are players that can adapt more and players that can adapt less. This is a matter of mentality and attitude, but I would not say that they complain more. I would say that some things have changed. So as a manufacturer, we are considering this, and we are trying to change maybe in the future how the balls are made to follow up these different needs.
But it's always tough, of course. One thing you pointed out is that the ITF has many rules from their organization. Maybe not all of them making sense. Maybe all of them make sense. I don't know. But it's like you as a manufacturer, you have to obviously adapt to that, because it's a professional sport under some organization as well. So it complicates matters, I guess.
It's complicated, yes, because the rules and the parameters are very strict. Anyway, the rules leave some space to improvements. For example, the rule about felt, it says that the ball has to be covered by a textile. So maybe it could be a different material, but so far we haven't found a material that has the same type of performances of the current felt, because not only the durability, but you have to think to the aerodynamics. The ITF studies a lot the aerodynamics of the ball. When it spins, it has to have the correct drag, and it has not to have this super spin effect. Studies are ongoing, but so far we didn't found a good material yet.
No, it's a big thing for the whole sport. You're not responsible for pickleballs, I guess, because it's very different from the tennis balls.
Pickleballs are not under my responsibility. They are they are totally different. Yes, but also there's a lot of development because one of the biggest problems in pickleball is the noise that they make. The noise is a big problem in the US where you have 50 courts and everybody play. The noise is very loud. So we are finding solutions to make the balls more quiet, at least for training. And there is more space because the rules leave more space for development.
Yeah, it's a new sport, so there's some more potential there to actually. I mean, rackets and balls are changing a bit more than in tennis. I wanted to ask you to end before we end, right? Like, so how much you're working for Head for quite a while? Prince, before that, how much tennis do you get to play? And is it a part of your job to go out and hit some balls and test some balls?
Yeah, of course.
Then I'm curious about your equipment as well.
No, I'm curious. I was playing, actually, I have to be honest, I was playing more in the past, now a little less. But it's important to go out on the court and test the products and know what we are developing and what I am also communicating, because my role is also to communicate, like I try to do today. I had to communicate the benefits and the features of our products. So I usually play with the Speed MP, with the Hawk Touch as a string, and balls. What I have to test, I usually play, but my favorite is Tour XT.
Like me, yeah, I'm the XT guy as well. And how good is, I mean, you're Italian, right? So Italian tennis now, it's better than ever before. Yannick Sinner, Paulini.
Yes.
It must be very exciting to be Italian and working in tennis at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's now tennis is a huge topic in Italy. Sinner, but also Paulini and the doubles teams, they are everywhere in the news. So it's a really good image for the sport in Italy. Tennis is growing a lot in the last years, and it is demonstrated by these results. And also, it's very important the work, let me say, that Head did in Italy with grassroots and young players, because Sinner comes from Team Head. He grew with Head, and he was discovered a little bit by our scouts. So it's really important the work that our colleagues in Italy have done with the young players and are still doing in all schools and academies. So tennis now in Italy is huge, and we are very happy, of course. And now let's keep fingers crossed that it continues.
Yeah, it should, because you have so many good players, also many head players, right? Like, I mean, many of the younger guys, Arnaldi, I guess, is a head player as well, and there's a bunch of others, and probably.
Yeah,
so you have a strong team from Head and Italy, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this was I was saying, that Team Head did a great job in Italy, and now all the good players are playing with Head rackets. That's a great success for Italy, for the Italian team.
Well, it's been great, Mauro. Thanks a lot for your time. I really learned a lot today, and this was what I wanted. But like the ingredients, how many balls you make, like 20 million balls is insane. And the 25 ingredients in a tennis ball, you think like there's 5, but it's 25. And it's been very good, and you've been very helpful. And I think the good learning, I'm a bit of a Ivanisevic guy, right? So don't focus on what you can change for now. Just try to play, because if you're playing tennis, the other guy is struggling with the same thing as you. So I think that was
exactly. As you said in another podcast, tennis is a gear-based sport. So the gear, in this case, the ball is the same for everyone during the match. So it's a matter of mentality and of adaptation. So I was very happy to have the opportunity to explain our point of view, and I hope I was clear enough. And thanks again for having me here.
Thanks. I hope to see you soon. Maybe in Kennelbach, maybe somewhere else.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome. Thanks a lot.